Dear brother, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, well, praise Allah.
All right, praise the Lord. Yes, yes. I'm excited for the day. This is a bright spot of my day, y'all.
Yes, yes.
Praise Allah.
Hey, Crazy.
Islam.
You want me to open up or wait for more people to go?
Yes, we're good now. We should open up right on time.
I can't unmute myself because
I can hear you.
Islam.
Islam.
First, I want to rise and give praises to. Oh no, I'm sorry. Let us rise and give praise.
Knock on the table if you want.
All rise. Face the east. 5 fingers on the left, 2 fingers on the right. Recite the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation.
my salvation.
By night
By night
and by day,
and by day,
through his holy prophet,
was holy prophet,
through Ali.
through Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
First, I want to rise. Praises to Allah, who is the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. He is the causeless cause and the rootless root from which all things have grown. To the one who is supreme, most wise, and beneficent. To him alone belongs worship, adoration, thanksgiving, and praise. I say praise Allah. I give honors to the illustrious prophet Noble Ali, the last prophet, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, 1913 AD, savior of humanity. I give honors to all true and divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc. I give honors to the forerunner, Marcus Messiah Garvey, for paving the way. I give honors to all past, supreme, grand advisors, and moderators of the Moorish Science Temple of America. In concession, Brother C. Kirkman Bey, Brother F. Nelson Bey, and Brother J. Blakely Bey. I give honors to the past Grand Sheikh and moderator, Brother R. Love Ill, may Allah be pleased. I give honors to the present Grand Sheikh and moderator, Brother R. Jones Bey, and his assistant, Brother P. Chase Ill. I give honors to the Grand National Chairman, Sister S. Russell Dunbar Bey, and her assistant, Brother V. Bell Bey. I give honors to the Grand Governor of the State of New York, Brother C. Hurt Bey, and his assistant, Brother K. Richardson Ill. I give honors to our Grand Sheikh in Temple number 34, Brother Y. Cyrus Hill, and his assistant, Brother W. Clinton Bay. I give honors to the Chairman, Brother C. Ferguson Hill. I give honors to the Assistant Secretary, Sister B. Reeves Bay, Treasurer, Brother T. Berry Bay. I give honors to all officials and members, guests of Temple 34. I give honors to all national, state, and local officials. I give honors to our 2 flags, the American flag and the Moorish flag, which represents the 5 highest principles known to man: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I give honors to our charter with its great wonders of the world, which give us the right to practice and promote Islamism in America without molestation. I give honors to all the literature and the remedies that the prophet has brought for uplift and fallen humanity. I give honors to man, because when man honors man, he honors his father God, Allah. Islam?
Islam.
I'll now take a read from the Divine Constitution and Bible. Salvation, our God, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America. The Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is a holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the law of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of this said government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of this said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendant of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and the southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans, their hearts and minds pure with love, and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of Allah, the great God of the universe. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God and my night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Home Office, 2905 5th Street, Southeast, Washington, D.C., 20032. Thus I read the 7 acts from the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. I'll now bring your attention over to the great meeting is on Quran questions for Moorish American. Page 7. Questionnaires and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses, each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finances, etc. That will cause the members to sacrifice finances, etc. That will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under heavy restrictions, etc., by the prophet or the grand sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their adept meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he shall be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation, and if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must capture. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school. And the teacher must conform himself to the questionnaire. And let every member exercise his 5 cents who is able to do so, because out from Sunday school come the guidance of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality in their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians. Because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and the southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Thus I read the 7 additional acts from the Quran questions for Moorish Americans. I'll now bring your attention to the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from the sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to life with his father, God Allah. Know that I'm going to take a read from chapter 26 on page 36. Is it 26? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Holy instructions of unity. The gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah, and he appointed to everyone his portion, in what measure seemeth good unto himself. Hath he endowed thee with wisdom? Hath he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicated to the ignorant for their instructions. Communicated to the wise for thine own improvement. True wisdom is less presuming than folly. The wise man doubteth often and changeth his mind. The fool is obstinate and doubteth not. He knoweth all things but his own ignorance. The pride of emptiness is an abomination, and to talk much is the foolishness of folly. Nevertheless, it is the part of wisdom to hear with patience their impertinence, and to pity their absurdity. Yet be not puffed up in thine own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding. The clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly. The wise man filleth his imperfection, and is humble. He laboreth in vain for his own aberration, but the fool peepeth in the shallow streams of his own mind, and is pleased with the pebbles which he seeth at the bottom. He bringeth them up and showeth them as pearls, and with the applause of his brethren, delighteth himself. He boasteth of attainment in things that are no worth, but where it is a shame to be ignorant, there he have no understanding. Even in the path of wisdom, he toileth after folly, and shame and disappointment are the rewards of his labor. But the wise man cultivates his mind with knowledge. The improvement of the arts is his delight, and their utility to the public crowneth with honor. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtues he accounteth as the highest learning, and the science of happiness is the study of his life. Praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
Our meeting has officially been opened according to Prophet Noble Ali, laws. I want to thank and welcome everyone here for our Sunday school. And I will, without further ado, call on our Sunday school, instructor for today, Brother Grand Chief, Brother Y. Cyrus Ill, after the song. Peace.
Islam. Peace. Praise Allah. We're waiting for the song to queue up. Let's give the admin 1 second. Praise Allah. Islam.
Islam.
First, I rise and give praise to the great God, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, the author, the creator, and the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. To him alone belong worship, adoration, thanksgiving, and praise. I give high honors to the last prophet in these days, Prophet Noble Jew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, who said, "Come all ye Asiatics and learn the truth about your nationality and your birthrights and your divine creed." I give high honors to all of the divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, etc. We give honors to the forerunner to the prophet, Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who said we had one aim, one God, and one destiny. I give honors to all the leaders of the Moorish Science Temple of America, past and present, giving honors to the first Supreme Grand Advisors and moderators, Brother C. Kirkman Bey, Brother F. Nelson Bey, and Brother J. Blakely Bey. I give honors to the former Grand Sheikh, Brother All Love Ill, and to his present Grand Sheikh, to the present Grand Sheikh and moderator of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Brother All Love Ill, Brother R. Jones Bey. I give honors to the charter of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It gives us the right to teach Islam in America without molestation, with its 10 great wonders of the world. I give honors to the two flags, to the American flag and to the Moorish flag, with its 5 highest principles that are known to man. I give continue honors to all national, state, and local officials of the Moorish Science Temple of America, giving honors to all grand governors and their assistants and all grand sheiks and their assistants. I give honors to the grand governor here in the state of New York, Brother C. Herb Bey, to his assistant, Brother K. Richardson Ill. I give honors to our Grand Sheikh Emeritus, Sister E. German Bey, and to the former Grand Sheikh, Brother W. Clendenin Bey. I give honors to all of the officials at Temple number 34, giving honors to the chairman, Brother C. Ferguson Ill, to his assistant, Sister L. Berry Bey. I give honors to Sister Berry Bey's assistant secretary, Sister B. Reeves Bey, to our treasurer, Brother T. Berry Bey. I give honors to all of our sheiks and our ministers, giving honors to Sister C. Sales Ill and Brother El Serrano Bey. I give honors to all of the members of Temple number 34. I give a special honor to all the faithful members. I give honors to all of those that are in attendance in the Sunday school meeting this afternoon. I give honors to man, because when man honors man, he honors his father, God, Allah. I give honors to all of the literature of the Moorish Science Temple of America, giving honors to the divine constitution and bylaws the additional laws, the Moorish Holy Quran, questionary, Moorish literature, humanity pamphlet, the oral statements, and everything that the prophet brought for the uplifting of fallen humanity. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. I'd like to extend a happy, I'd like to welcome everyone to this Sunday school this afternoon. It's a beautiful day outside. We just had a very powerful weekend as the United States ushered in a new president-elect, Brother Joe Biden, to cheering all around the country. Praise Allah. There's a beautiful energy, and the sun is up outside. I give honors to all of those who participated in the process, right? The civic process of electing your local, state, and national officials. Islam. So we want to start by going into the questionary. I'm going to read the Moorish American prayer at the beginning of the questionary. Top of the questionary says, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. And I want to quickly see if there's anyone on the call. I'm going to pick one person to see if we have anyone that has their questionary in front of them other than reverting to our secretary or to the administrator of this meeting. Does anyone have their questionnaire would like to repeat with me as I recite the question and answer? Going once? You got to unmute yourself, Moors. I'll give you a second to unmute your phone. Sister Harmony has hers. I see that. I want to see if there's anyone else that has.
It's open already. Brother El Serrano Bay is on the line. He has his literature with him.
Praise Allah. Thank you, Sister Silzil. Brother Serrano Bay. You ready, Brother Sheik? You want to give praise and honors?
Islam, first I rise, give my all praise to the great God Allah. I give honors to his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to everything that our Grand Sheik gave honors to, opening chairman, and everything that pertains to Islam. Peace.
Peace. Brother Serrano Bay, first question. Who made you?
Allah.
Who is Allah?
Allah is the Father of the universe.
Can we see him?
No.
Where's the nearest place we can meet him?
In the heart.
Who is Noble Drew Ali?
He is Allah's prophet.
What is a prophet?
A prophet is a thought of Allah manifested in the flesh.
What is the duty of a prophet?
To save nations from the wrath of Allah.
Who is the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America?
Noble Drew Ali.
What year was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded?
1913 AD.
Where?
Newark, New Jersey.
Newark, New Jersey. I'm going to stop right there just for a split second. I had a thought. We're going to go over this afternoon a little bit of the history of the Moorish Science Temple of America, praise Allah, in its early stages, right? And I wanted to pause for a minute and see if anyone, Brother Serrano Bay is one of our historians and who has a grasp of the history, as well as Brother Condemned Bay. You know, we all should have a grasp of the early stages of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Anyone want to tell anything, a small story, or any of the history that you know about the Moorish Science Temple of America in Newark, New Jersey? There are several items that you can touch on, but I want to see where the Moors go. Islam, Sister Silzel.
Islam, Brother Grand Sheik. Islam was, first I rise and give praises to Allah. I give honors to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to everything that our opening chairman gave honors to, and I give honors to everything that our Grand Sheik on the line gave honors to. I give honors to this conference call as well. I was just going to say that I know that it was originally organized through barber shops. That was something that I found to be very interesting.
Islam.
It was named Dixon's barbershop from what I recall.
Mm-hmm. Islam, praise Allah. Dixon's barbershop, right? And that's where the prophet began. He set up the Canaanite temple, right? Praise Allah. And any other stories? There's a couple of them, and you can add details, or if you want to add, there's a couple of different things that happened in Newark, New Jersey. First, it was the prophet had Dixon's barbershop before he moved, right? The temple. Then there's a story. There's a brother Brother Walker Ill that gives, I think it's James Walker Ill, gives a story about the prophet being in Dixon's barbershop and what the prophet was doing on at that time and why he ended up moving. Praise Allah. Any other, thank you so much, Sister Silzil. Anyone else have any other stories that you know about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America in the early stages of Newark, New Jersey? Anyone familiar? We talked a couple of weeks ago, I believe, when we were in conference call mode before, about a Muslim by the name of Sadi Majid. Anyone remember the story about Sadi Majid? Brother Serrano Bey?
Islam.
Islam.
If I'm not mistaken, Sadi Majid was a Islamic brother that went against the Prophet, and he tried to basically question the Prophet's prophethood and being a spokesperson for Islam by submitting some papers to other Islamic countries. I think Saudi Arabia, just different places, and they denied the Prophet. If I'm not mistaken, this is the same brother, Sadi Majid. Peace and love.
That's accurate, Brother Serrano Bey. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. The Prophet was challenged by this particular brother who was teaching a form of Al-Islam, and Brother Serrano Bey described it perfectly. I invite the Moors to learn about that story. It's one of the early stories of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and it comes out of Newark, New Jersey. Anything else? When was Sister Silsdale?
Islam Grand Sheikh, I was just going to mention also for the Dixon's Barbershop, I remember that Dixon, the actual owner at that time, he was trying to promote more Christianity, and the Prophet refused and was making it clear that he was sticking to teaching our people Islam. And at that time, barbershops was an ideal place to meet and converse and to build on business ideas, because it was more of inconspicuous. People wouldn't really think of that location as being a place where they had to worry about, or where it was actually even considered like rallying, like a certain number of people could get in the barbershop without it being considered such a big deal. Peace.
Islam, praise Allah. That was the other part of the story that the brother James Walker explains. You can find excerpts of James Walker's interview. Someone interviewed him in his elder age. He was one of the members that was attending at Dixon's barbershop. You can find that in the brother A. Hopkins Bey's book, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the Savior of Humanity. If you don't have a copy of the book Savior of Humanity, where you can learn about many aspects of the Prophet's life and the Prophet's works, you can find it in the book, including that particular interview. So thank you, Sister Silza. That's very, very good information. And I want to see if our AGS came on the line yet, Brother W from Nineveh. Or Brother. I wanted to confirm the address. I believe the address for Dixon's Barbershop was 181 Warren, and the Prophet ended up moving to 12th and Rucker, right? After he had a dispute with Dixon per Sister Silzil's, which Sister Silzil just explained, he moved into the new location.
Warren Street, Grand Sheikh, you're absolutely correct.
Praise Allah. I just wanted to make sure I was accurate with the address of the barbershop. 181 Warren Street in Newark, New Jersey. And then he moved to 12th and Rucker. Interestingly enough, 12th and Rucker right now is the location of Rutgers University. It lies flat smack in the middle of that same address.
What was the name?
I just graduated from Rutgers. Praise Allah.
Sister Barber asked for the name of the book?
Yeah, what was the name of it?
That was Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Savior of Humanity. Yeah, by Brother A. Hopkins Bey. One last detail about the Prophet, and we're going to go into this in Newark. The Moors should be aware, Prophet Muhammad had a flight he had to flee from Mecca to Medina, in the story of the Prophet Muhammad in Mecca, right? And then he returned, and he was able to reconquer, right? Return in the conquest. That's why it says Prophet Muhammad was a conqueror afterwards, after he was able to establish Islam. And Prophet Noble Drew Ali, with this story about Sadi Majid, did something very similar. And Prophet Noble Drew Ali was able to reestablish what temple number in Newark, New Jersey. And this would have been interesting to have Brother Canaanites on. Let's see if any of the Moors are super sharp and know why I would mention Brother Canaanites.
Islam. You ready? Grand Sheikh, temple number 10. And from what I knew, at a point, Brother Clendenin held the charter for it, and the current Grand Sheik at this particular point.
Islam. Boom. That's spot on. Temple number 10, right? So Prophet Noble Drew Ali left. We're going to talk about this story. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali left Newark, New Jersey, had to go to Chicago and set up temple number 1 through 9, and then he was able to send a Muslim. And I want you to know who it was, who he sent to reestablish a temple in Newark, New Jersey in the following year. I believe it was, I'm trying to remember, and I want to be very careful with the set aside dates, but in the years following, somewhere between, so we know that, I'm trying to remember what year Temple 11 was established. And I don't know, I know it was in, I know it was in October, but Prophet was able to reestablish, he sent a Muslim to reestablish the Moorish Science Temple of America, Newark, New Jersey, and it was temple number 10. Praise Allah. Brother Serrano Bay, let's continue. Question number 11, right? And that's question number 10. Ironically, the Prophet, Brother Ferguson, Brother Clinton Bay always talks about the numerology of the Prophet, right? And that question number 10, where is the question for Newark, New Jersey? And the temple in Newark, New Jersey is temple number 10 as well. Question number 11, Brother Serrano Bay, where was Noble Drew Ali born?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, sir. Where was Noble Drew Ali born?
In the state of North Carolina, 1886.
Question number 12, what is his nationality?
Moorish American.
What is your nationality?
American.
Why are we Moorish Americans?
Because we are descendants of Moroccans born in America.
Question 15, for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded?
For the uplifting of fallen humanity.
How did the Prophet uplift the Moorish Americans?
By teaching them to be themselves.
What is our religion?
Islamism.
Is that a new or is that the old time religion?
Old time religion.
What kind of flag is the Moorish?
It is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center.
What do the 5 points represent?
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
How old is our flag?
It is over 10,000 years old.
Which is our holy day?
Friday.
Why?
Because Friday is the day on which man was formed in flesh, and it was on a Friday when he departed out of flesh.
Question 24, who was Jesus?
He was a prophet of Allah.
Where was he born?
In Bethlehem of Judah in the house of David.
Who were his father and mother?
Joseph and Mary.
Will you give in brief the line, genealogy through which Jesus came?
Some of the great fathers through which Jesus came are Abraham, Boaz by Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary.
Question 28, why did Allah send Jesus to this earth?
To save the Israelites from the iron hand oppression of the pale-skinned nations of Europe who were governing a portion of Palestine at that time.
How long has that been?
About 2,000 years ago.
What is the nationality of Ruth?
Ruth was a Moabitess.
What is the modern name for Moabites?
Moroccans.
Where is the Moroccan Empire?
Northwest of Mexum.
What is the modern name for Mexum?
Africa.
What is the title given to a ruler in Morocco?
Sultan.
Where do we get the name Jesus?
From the east.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Any questions from page 2? Praise Allah. So I'm going to start off with another bit of information, history, so the Moors can become slowly but surely familiar with the history of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Question number 24 is who was Jesus? Actually, 26. After it asks who was Jesus, it asks who were his father and mother. Who were Jesus' father and mother? Joseph and Mary. And this phrase of questions is very similar to the set of questions that ask about the prophet, including where was the prophet born? In the state of North Carolina, 1886. Why does the questionnaire not mention anything about the prophet Noble Drew Ali's parents? And I'm gonna leave this open for the sheiks for this question. The next question will be for the members only. Hold on, my phone is connected to my computer. I'm about to shut it down. Anyone know why does the prophet not mention his father and mother?
Islam?
Islam, Sister Silver?
Yeah, he didn't want any shrines or any type of worship being placed around his parents.
Right. The Moors heard that. Prophet Noble Drew Ali did not mention, he says he didn't want to have the Moors to worship his parents, make shrines for his parents, or attempt to try to worship him. Right? We give praise to Allah, we give honors to the prophets. We don't praise the prophets. There's only one God, Allah, the great God Allah. Islam?
Islam.
Here's another question. And this one I'm going to ask the sheiks to not respond. I'm going to ask Brother Serrano Bey. I'm going to ask Brother Serrano Bey if Brother Kanina Bey came on, not to answer, because this is a question that all Moors should be aware of, but I want to make sure everyone is sharp and has read about the story of the conquest, the Moors' conquest of Spain in the year 711. And I gave half of the answer away. So the question is, can anyone tell me who is General Tariq? We just read about the Moroccan Empire, right? Where is the Moroccan Empire? Northwest of Maxim. What is the title given to the rulers of Morocco? Sultan. And part of understanding that history, can anyone tell me who was General Tariq and what did he do? Islam, Sister Silzil.
Islam, yes. So he was a general that was given permission by sultans to be able to go through Spain. And
I want you to answer that question.
I thought only Brother Serrano Bay, Brother Kanina Bay. Sorry.
I should have said Sister Silzil. Matter of fact, you're right. Let's stick to the rules. I said Brother Serrano Bay and Brother Kanina Bay. Go ahead, Sister Silzil. Tell the Moors, who was General Tariq?
Now I'm gonna hold out. Praise Allah.
Go ahead, because you already explained the gist of it, and I want the more those who are not can dive into the history and get an experience the entire story for themselves. Say that again, Sister Silzil.
From what I understood from before was that he was given permission from the sultans to pretty much go into Spain at that particular point in time. He wasn't given the permission to conquer, but he went in and kind of saw it was easy and thought that they would be proud and kind of went in there and did his thing with the conquering portion of it.
Islam. Praise Allah. Yes. So in the history of the Moors, when they went into Europe in the year 711, they were spreading Islam to those that didn't accept it the regular way. Even in Africa, Islam was not spread with the sword. Just for reference, this is going into a book called The Walking Quran by Rudolph T. Ware. We have these at Temple 34 as well. The Walking Quran tells a story about how Prophet Muhammad was a walking Quran, and how across Africa, the Quran is taught in Quran schools to the youth through memorization from a very early age. But it also makes a very strong case. It actually explains that Islam was not spread by the sword in Africa. It was accepted. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, sent out the decree that this was, the will of Allah, that he would establish Islam and the truth that there's one God and this is the way it's supposed to operate. So many parts of the world accepted it readily. Some parts resisted. Africa accepted it readily, and it was not spread by the sword. But the Muslims traveled across Africa and they went into Europe because they needed to spread Islam where it was not accepted. So in 711, the Moors actually landed on the Rock of Gibraltar in Spain, right where Spain comes very close to Morocco, and they began to spread Islam. And it was General Tariq who won the very first battles and was able to actually continue up north on a northern path through Spain, and was stopped finally at the border of France by King Charles. I believe it's King Charles was able to stop the Moors, and the Moors were able to settle, and they remained in Spain for 700 years. But the very detail of him, the explanation of him going in and city by city, and some of the cities that they conquered peacefully, they left the governors there in place to continue to govern, which was a very fair way of operating. They left many of the landowners there to control the land, and they just were able to pay a tax if they were not Islamic. So Christianity and even Judaism, the Jews that were in Spain at the time were allowed to continue to practice, but the land was owned officially by the Moors, although it was, they left sharecroppers, if you will. I believe sharecropping is when you allow someone to control the land and make money off of the land, but they have to pay a certain tax. So this is all in a book, another book entitled The Moors of Spain. If you don't have a copy of The Moors of Spain, all the members of Temple 34 should have a copy of The Moors in Spain. You can read that entire story. That's by Stanley Lane Poole. You can read that entire story in a book entitled Moors of Spain. Islam?
Islam, Grand Sheik?
Islam, Sister Silzel.
Islam, as you mentioned, just came to walk along with you. You had mentioned that also the taxes that he offered, which is where we got the word tarif from, or tariff, which also speaks to a taxation. And in addition to what you were just communicating, to come along with that, showing that it wasn't impressive in nature, he also, as he maneuvered through, there were also three things that were always built. There were schools, hospitals, and places of worship. So he made sure that these things were also made available, in addition to it being taught for them how to wash, which was a major thing when it came to certain diseases and pestilence and certain things. Taught them how not to sleep with their animals, develop healthy living habits to minimize the spread of serious illnesses.
Islam.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Peace.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Yes, that's beautiful. There were Sister Silzel explained what the Moors were able to do in building up Spain and building up the schools, universities. The Moors are famous for having built bathhouses. They built up the irrigation so that the farming and agriculture was able to increase. In Spain, there was the development of surgery. There was literature, writing in theater. They developed lights and sewage in Spain when at the time when in Europe it was still in the dark ages, and they didn't have, they were suffering from plagues and whatnot by not having proper sewage. And one of the things, like I said, the Moors developed algebra while in Spain, and we had talked a couple of weeks ago about how, and this goes on and on about the powerful things that the Moors were able to develop while they were in Spain. And they reference one other book by Brother A. Hopkins Bate, is a book entitled "What Your History Books Failed to Teach You." What your history books failed to teach you, and that's a great book to introduce to those of your family that you want to introduce more science to, because it has 3 parts. And one of the parts is it explains all of the wonderful things in detail that the Moors actually did while we were in Spain. We had talked a couple of weeks ago about how the alphabet was developed in China. I believe Blaze my son asked the question, Brother B. Cyrus Ill asked the question, how do we know about the stories about Jesus? And I explained that India and China had a written language, but China is accredited for developing the alphabet, but the first written language, right, came out of Sumeria. So the first letters, I believe, I don't know if I want to call it cuneiform, if that's correct, but the first form of alphabet that actually was it actually set up for the development of the alphabet came out of Sumeria, aka Canaan land, right? But the Moors of Spain actually were able to develop, I believe they were able to develop the 9-digit numerical system, 0 through 9, which was able to take mathematics to another level. That and it had something to do with the development of algebra. All of this coming out of Spain, which is a very, very interesting and rich history, which is why we always talk about the illustrious history of the Moors, of our ancestors. So moving on, I want to go into question number 36. Looking at the time real quick. Okay, we're good on time. Brother Serrano Bay, you still with me, Brother Sheik?
Islam.
Okay, we're gonna do down to 54. And I think I'm gonna switch to Sister Harmony. I wanted to help with some questions as well, and I will leave her 2 pages. Question number 36, Brother Serrano Bay. What does the name Jesus mean?
Jesus means justice.
Did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name?
Yes, but it cannot be used by those who are slaves to sin.
What is an angel?
An angel is a thought of Allah manifested in human flesh.
What are angels used for?
To carry messages to the four corners of the world to all nations.
What is our prophet to us?
He is an angel of Allah who was sent to bring us the everlasting gospel of Allah.
What is the everlasting gospel?
It is a saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient fathers by his prophet.
What is the covenant of the great God Allah?
Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earth land, which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee.
At what age did Jesus begin to teach?
At the age of 12.
Where did he teach?
India, Africa, and Europe.
How long did he teach?
18 years.
What did Jesus say would make you free?
Truth.
What is truth?
Truth is art.
What is art?
Art is Allah.
Can truth change?
Truth cannot change or pass away.
What other name do we give to truth?
Holy breath.
What have you to say about holy breath?
All we can say is it is great, it is good, it was, it is, and evermore to be. Amen.
Praise Allah. At what place on earth was the physical part of man formed?
In the Garden of Eden.
What is the name for the Garden of Eden?
In the land of Canaan, in the holy city of Mecca.
Oh, wow. Wait a minute. Yeah, I skipped the question. Where is the Garden of Eden? You just answered it. Say that one more time, Brother Smiley. Let me go back. I'm going to go to question 52. At what place on earth was the physical part of man formed?
In the Garden of Eden.
Where is the Garden of Eden?
In the land of Canaan, in the city of Mecca.
What is the modern name for the Garden of Eden?
Mecca.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Any questions yours on page 3? Praise Allah. Then we're going to continue on. I want to be careful with time. I have some things that I would love to discuss on that particular page, but I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to ask Sister Harmony. Sister Harmony, if you can pick up from there. I want to say thank you, Brother Serrano Bay. Sister Harmony, the top of page 4, question number 55. You ready?
Islam Grand Sheikh, I'm ready.
Islam. Question 55. What is the name of the first physical man?
His name cannot be used only by executive rulers of the AC of the MST of A.
What are the words of the AC of the MST of A?
Adept Chamber of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Third Heaven.
Third Heaven. As we continue into these questions about Adam and Eve more, so I don't want to discuss it, but I want to let you know this is some heavy duty information. These are all facts, and as such, this is heavy. These are some of the most profound clues, right? Points of information that the prophet laid down for us, including what we just read about the holy city of Mecca, those 3 questions. As we continue, question number 57, who were Adam and Eve?
They are the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims.
Where did they go?
They went into Asia.
What is the modern name given to their children?
Asiatics.
Praise Allah. Who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away?
Angels.
What is the modern name for those angels?
Asiatics.
What is the shade of their skin?
Olive.
Praise Allah. Are the Moorish Americans any relation to those angels?
Yes, we all have the same father and mother.
I want to make a point to really maybe get into that section when we go over the questionnaire next week. There's just so much there, but I want to be wary of time. Question number 64, Sister Harmony. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve.
Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast.
Question 65. What is the devil sometimes called?
The lower self.
How many cells are there?
2.
Name them.
Higher self and lower self.
What people represent the higher self?
The angels who protect the holy city of Mecca.
What people represent the lower self?
Those who were cast out of the holy city and those who accept their teachings.
What is the higher self?
The higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right.
And the higher self pass away.
No,
Why?
because it is Allah in man.
What does the lower self breed?
Hatred, slander, lewdness, murders, theft, and everything that harms.
What did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him?
Where are you going, Satan?
What is the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self?
I am going to and fro the earth, seeking whom I may devour.
As he finished his task of devouring,
Yes,
when was his time declared out?
when he nailed Jesus on the cross.
What are the last words Jesus uttered?
It is finished.
What did he have reference to?
He had reference to the end of Satan.
Did Jesus say that he would return to conquer him?
Yes,
What is the name of the person into whom Jesus was first reincarnated?
Prophet Muhammad, the conqueror.
Was Satan to be bound then?
Satan was to be bound in part.
When was the head of Satan taken off?
1453, Byzantine,
By whom?
by Muhammad.
I'm going to stop right there because I didn't stop at the bottom of page 4 and ask if there are any questions. Anyone? Make sure that you unmute your phone. I'm going to give you a second. Any questions? Praise Allah. Brother Kibbe? Islam. If you unmuted your phone, if you have a question, you can ask that now, or I'm going to continue.
Islam. Yes, I have a question, if that's okay.
Islam. Who is that? That's Brother Kibbe?
Yeah, Brother Kid Bay.
Hold on, Brother Kibbe. What's your question, brother man?
Islam. Let me find it just 1 second.
Take your time.
All right, Islam. Sorry about that. First, I rise giving praise to Almighty God Allah, honors to His Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and give honors to everyone on this call, and give honors to all faithful Muslims. Islam.
Islam.
My question actually is about one of the questions in the questionnaire about Adam and Eve, and it says that they were the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm trying to think of how to word the question. So it says the mothers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims. I notice it doesn't really mention anyone else. Is that giving presence to the history that, like, at one time the whole earth was called Asia, and that everyone was known as Asiatics? You see what I'm getting at? I'm trying to figure out how to word the question, but
you know, we mentioned Asia Major is how it was taught the first time, was what Pangea is referred to as. If the Moors look up Pangea, it talks about the continents when they were all one part. And you know, in that sense, I get what you're saying. In terms of the question, they are the mothers and fathers of the human family. I'm not 100% clear. I could just go off of what the prophet is saying. One, I would say that when he says that they're Muslim, you know, Asiatics and Muslim, let's deal with Muslim first. Muslim is basically saying that this speaks to what Islamism is. You know, Islamism is the old time religion, and it was taught by Adam. You know, Adam was actually a prophet, and he was teaching the same thing that the prophet Jesus was clarified as teaching about Allah and Islam, what we now call Islam. Prophet Muhammad united it under the name Islam. So that's one way. And Asiatic would mean, yes, dwelling in Asia, you know, coming out of the Garden of Eden and currently bearing that name, Asiatic. And the only thing I could do as someone strictly following the tenets of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is go to where he refers to that Asiatic family, and it's mentioned in detail in chapter 45. In chapter 45, if you look, which is entitled Divine Origin of the Asiatic Nations, plural, he mentions several groups of people, and specifically instructions 3 through 7. Egyptians, Hamites, the direct descendants of Mizraim, Hindus of India. Actually, Japanese and Chinese are there with the Egyptians and the Hamites. That's instruction 3. Hindus of India, instruction number 4, ancient Canaanites, Hittites, Moabites in the land of Canaan. Then he goes into the Asiatic nations of North, South, and Central America, including the Moorish Americans, Mexicans, North America, Brazilians, Argentinians, Chileans in South America, Colombians, Nicaraguans, and the natives of San Salvador in Central America, etc. And in in instruction number 7, he says the Turks, which are the true descendants of Hagar, and he calls them the chief protectors of the Islamic creed of Mecca. So this is the group that the prophet lays out. And if this is like the major branches, there are certain capillaries, tertiary and capillary branches that extend from that, or anyone that could connect to any of those groups at any particular point in time. Those are the nations that he describes as being Asiatic. And I mean, that's what I could read from it. Anything else, there's probably some things in between the lines, but that's what I gleaned from it, from the direct association of what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave us. Hopefully that answered the question, Brother Bay.
Yeah, that answered it. Thank you.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Any other questions before we continue on and close out of the questionnaire? So we can go, we got 4 minutes, and I want to get into some of that, go back into the history of the Moorish Science Temple of America for this week. Praise Allah, Sister Harmony. So we're going to pick up from question number 85. Name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of Northwest by the European nations in 1774.
Negro, Black, Colored, and Ethiopian.
Question 86, Negro.
A name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contains black water.
Question 87, what is meant by the word black?
Black, according to science, means death.
Question 88, what does the word colored mean?
Colored means anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed.
What does the word Ethiopia mean?
Ethiopia means something divided.
Can a man be a Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian?
No.
Why?
Because man is made in the image and after the likeness of God, Allah.
What title does Satan give himself?
God.
We define the word white.
White means purity, purity means God, and God means the ruler of the land.
Allah. Question 94, to whom do we refer to at times as being the great God Allah? Wow, I read the entire question, most part of it. To whom do we refer to at times as being the great God?
Allah.
Is the devil made in the image and the likeness of Allah?
No, he is a shadow of our lower selves and will pass away.
Who made the devil?
Elohim.
Who is Elohim?
Elohim is the 7 creative spirits that created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be.
What is Elohim sometimes called?
The 7 eyes of Allah.
How many days are in the circle?
7 days.
How many days are in a creation?
7 days.
According to science, how many days are in a year?
7 days.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Any final questions after having read the last 2 pages? Any other questions? And again, I would have forced the Moors to explain what they think about question 95 is also one of the very profound ones. I always like to double check and make sure that the Moors are able to draw a certain understanding from it. The question is the devil made in the image and likeness of Allah? And the answer being no, he is a shadow of our lower selves and will pass away. But for sake of time, I'm going to bypass that for now. So with that, Moors, I want to go into the mid portion of the class. And again, this is a history lesson, and it's a little bit, I'm going to test the Moors, make sure everyone is engaging, and see if anyone is aware. Who can tell me anything about the story of, what is Moorish home number 1? What is Moorish home number 1? And I'm going to exclude all of the sheiks actually on this one. Any of the members that are not sheiks. What is Moorish home number 1? Islam? I see Brother Vocazio on it. I think I see Brother Vocazio on the list. Brother Vocazio, you there? Can you speak, Muslim?
Islam.
Islam.
First, I rise and give praise to the great God Allah, the governor of the universe, my father, the father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I give I give honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali for everything that he's brought back to us, to me. I give honors to everyone on this conference and everything pertaining to Islam. I give honors where honors is due. I believe the temple number 1 is the Moorish Science Temple of America home office, 2905 5th Street, Southeast. If my mind,
I was referring. So you have home office, right? Which is which has significance. Then you have temple number 1, which is in Chicago, Illinois. But I was saying we have 2 Moorish homes: Moorish home number 1, Moorish home number 2. And I want to make sure that the Moors, as you know, learning about the Moorish Science Temple of America, you want to know what is Moorish home number 1, also known as Moorish National Home number 1. Have you ever heard about Moorish home number 1 or 2?
yes, I have not. I don't know for a fact.
Islam. Okay, that's fair enough. Anyone else? And I don't want to put anyone else on the spot. I almost want to test Sister Harmony. Sister Harmony, I'm sure you probably haven't heard of Moorish home number 1 as well. I'm going to go to Brother Kidbay, Brother Marcus Kidbay, Brother M. Kidbay. You heard of Moorish number 1, home number 1 or 2?
Islam.
Islam.
I've heard of Moorish home number 1, but I'm not real clear on why the Moorish homes were set up. What was their specific purpose?
Good. Praise Allah. Thank you for that. Then this is a good lesson for the Moors. Now I'm going to open up the floor to the sheiks and see if I can get someone to jump in and give an overview. What is Moorish home number? What are the Moorish homes, period? And specifically, what is Moorish home number 1? And I'm going to ask Brother Serrano Bay to wait a little bit. I'm going to go to Sister Berry Bay. Sister Berry Bay got a chance to visit Moorish home number 1. So I'm going to go to Sister L. Berry Bay.
I don't have to put, you can hear me? Islam?
Yes, we can hear Sister Berry Bay, right?
Moorish home number 1 is located in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Moorish home number 2 is located in the West Coast. I can't remember exactly where. But Moorish home number 1 is where I visit for an obligation for Sister Adams Bay. So that was my first time there. And they also do the yearly camping, Moorish camping, where we all go out and camp. And I don't, what else did
which one of our former national leaders is associated with Moorish home number 1? Sister Berry Bay, she knows it's connected to one of the national leaders, and this is where we're going to Nelson Bay, F. Nelson Bay. Praise Allah. You sound really light. I hear Sister Michaela good though.
I was saying that Moorish home number 1 was set aside, I believe, by Brother Kirkman Bay, as well as Temple 21 helped with funding and purchasing the property.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Let's get into that. I'm going to share my screen here. And Sister Silsdale mentioned something that is very important. Let me see, make sure this is sharing. See, show screen. Wait a minute, did I share properly? Hold on. Where am I at here? Okay, can you see that, Moors?
Yes.
Okay,
Islam, yes.
that is Brother F. Nelson Bay, former Grand Sheikh, Supreme Grand Advisor and moderator of the Moorish Science Temple of America, who Sister Silsdale correctly explained was appointed by Brother C. Kirkman Bay he was given the mission of going to establish, let me see if I can get this to go into a slideshow mode. Let me see. You know what? I won't do that. He was appointed to set aside a temple in Virginia. And this photograph that is below this on this page. This is actually a photograph that the Moors have of Brother Nelson Bay down on the Moorish home. And I have pasted over top of it the title from an article that is written about Moorish home number 1. It says Virginia's Moorish colony experiment in living has continued for 14 years among the pines of Prince George, which is a part of Virginia, just outside of, I want to say that Prince George is just outside of Washington, D.C., with exotic atmosphere, right? So the story is that Brother C. Kirkman Bey dispatched Brother F. Nelson Bey, and I believe Brother F. Nelson Bey was a member of Chicago's Temple number 9, if I'm not mistaken. And this brother packed up his entire family and moved down into Virginia to utilize land that the Moors had given. Actually, and Sister Silsdale pointed out that the land for Moorish home number 1, interestingly enough, was donated by the members, some members out of Temple 21. And again, I'm going to do a check to see if Brother W. Clendenin Bey was ever able to make it on the line. Brother Clendenin Bey, I think, has a little bit more specific information, may have more specific information about how that came about. Or if Brother T. Williams Bey was able to come on as well. Brother Williams Bey, if you want to, Sheik, if you can announce yourself, maybe you have a little bit of that background as well. But the land was given by Temple 21, and Brother F. Nelson Bey left from Chicago, took his family down and began to develop the land. All right. So this is Brother F. Nelson Bey. This is a photograph from that article. You can see him in his robe. He's got his Sheik badge. You know, this is a rare photograph. I hadn't seen this before. It says Brother F. Nelson Bey has been Grand Governor of the colony for 14 years. He says the organization has millions of members in the United States. All right. So this is Brother F. Nelson Bey. Point of information. I think I have it in some of the slides that I actually brought with me, that the Moorish home was officially sanctioned by the Grand Body in the annual National Convention in 1939. All right, so this wasn't something that, and this is a good demonstration, this wasn't something that was just decided, hey, okay, we're going to just start a Moorish home. Even Brother Kirkman Bey is saying, okay, or the Moors of 21, we're going to start a home, and we just started building it and call it the national home. It was officially sanctioned. All right. Here's a photograph of some of the Moors down in Moorish home number 1. The caption under this photograph says, S. Thurmond Ill and Sister A. Francis Bey, his assistant, stand beside the ceremonial prophet's chair in the Moorish temple. All right. And you can see the Moors in their garb, and you see the charter, you can see the flags, and you see the prophet's chair. Right. This is going back to 1939, 1940s, basically. In this next photograph, this is very interesting. These are some of the members of the Moorish home number 1 knitting some type of, it says Page Hill Jones Bey, Stewart Bey, and Basharat Bey display needlework on the stoop of the colony dining hall, right? So they're knitting something together. Interestingly enough, see the sister right here on the right of this photograph? This is the sister that actually helped establish Moorish home number 2. Sister Basharis Bey, aka Princess Basharis, the Princess Basharis. I don't know if the Moors are familiar with the story with Princess Basharis that was given. It was mentioned by Sister E. German Bey. I was working on an article with Sister German Bey on the Moorish Guide, and Sister German Bey talking about the history of temple number 34 mentions a woman by the name of Princess Basharis, who I believe was friends with Brother Carrington Bey. Brother D. Carrington Bey who was a past Grand Sheik of temple number 34. And then I actually she asked me to go get more information from Sister Warner Bey, and Sister Warner Bey tells a story about Princess Basharis. Any of the Moors familiar with that story or the sister? Now here's the article. I don't know if the Moors can hear me. I think I'm muted. I'm muted. This is a picture of Princess Basharis, right? So you can see her hair. And this is the picture that was provided by Sister, I think Sister Warner Bay gave me this photograph. Princess Basharis, right? The founder of Moorish Home number 2, AKA Temple number 46, right? And you know, the connecting line in this conversation is about, really it's a story about striving, right? As a Moorish American, we strive, we want to make our meetings, on time. And we say that that's hard work. You know, some of us are operating official positions in the temple. I don't know why my phone keeps ringing here, and that's the type of striving. But these Moors, Brother Nelson Bey, striving hard. He relocated his entire family for the Moorish Science Temple of America, and he didn't come into a luxury setup that was already prepared. He actually had to start from scratch and build an entire temple up, and he was successful. Princess Basharis, we're going to read about her story. She was dispatched by Brother Kirkman Bey as well, right? And I'm going to read this part. This comes from the Moorish Guide article that I put together with Sister German Bey about Princess Basharis. This is her here. Coincidentally, here is Sister German Bey with Brother D. Carrington Bey and Brother Simmons Ill, Brother J. Simmons Ill, who I believe Brother Simmons Ill, and this is one of those questions for Brother W. Clendenin Bey. Brother Simmons Ill was, I'm not sure if he was a Grand Sheik out of Connecticut's temple number 35, or was he out of one of the New Jersey temples? I know he has some relationship with temple. He has some relationship with temple number 28, including family members. And here is Brother Ferguson Ill. Most, give me a minute. Let me let Brother Ferguson Ill in. Brother Ferguson should be able to answer this particular question as well. Then we'll read the article. So I'm going to ask, Brother Ferguson Ill. Islam Grand Gulf. Quick question. Brother Simmons Ill, Brother J. Simmons Ill was a member in which temple, Grand Gulf? Temple 35, or was he associated with Temple 28 as well, or both?
34, and then he went to 69.
34, then 69. That's right. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. So I'm gonna read this quick article. Moors, you still there? Sister Harmony, can you hear me?
Islam, we're still here. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, praise Allah. It says right here in the beginning of this yellow part, this is about Sister Bashara. So we went from Brother Nelson Bey, Moorish Home number 1. This is Moorish Home number 2. This is the history of Moorish Home number 2. It says, in our discussion, Sister German Bey mentioned a member that was granted the title of princess and was a national representative who traveled the country and was based out of Temple number 9. She said her name was Princess Basharis, and said that Sister D. Warner Bey of Grand Sheikah Temple number 57 would have more information about her. Sister Warner Bey explained that Sister Anderson Ill recorded the following account under the heading Prophet Noble Drew Ali, founder of the MST of A, Inc. Brother C. Kirkman Bey, first Supreme Grand Advisor, moderator of MST of A, and first Sultan of the Western Hemisphere, Brother Kirkman Bey sent Sister P. Basharis Bey to Kansas City, Missouri, during the time Brother Muhammad Bey, the Conqueror, was teaching. Brother Muhammad Bey started teaching in 1935, and many of us followed him. This is a quote. Sister Basharis Bey, divine minister, began talking to the members, telling them they had to have the divine constitution and bylaws and charter in order to be able to teach and operate in this government. 2 sisters were sent to Chicago to meet with Brother Kirkman Bey, Sister M. Walker Bey and Sister B. Burton Bey, who served her temple as AGS, served under Sister Basharis. They returned with information and authority to assist Sister Basharis Bey in setting up Temple number 46. They were the original members of Temple number 46. This is what Moorish Home number 2 was, Temple number 46. So Temple number 46 was converted into Moorish Home number 2 later on. In 1940, Sister Basharis Bey, known to walk barefoot with the staff, taught about our religion, not being Negroes, color folks, and Black people, and that our nationality was Moorish American. And this is from Sister Warner Bey, who extends special thanks to Sister C. Winslow Bey. Islam, was any questions about Sister Princess Basharis, Moorish Home number 1 or Moorish Home number 2? And then while we're on that topic, and this is a little bit more history about Moorish home number 1, how it came about. The present Grand Sheik is Sister K. Nelson Bey, Brother F. Nelson Bey's granddaughter, I believe. Someone is trying to call while I'm in the middle of a meeting. My phone, I can't untie my phone from the computer. So there's other stories of Moors who did similar feats. Here is a photograph of Brother G. Moss Bey, right, in uniform, who, as he was also connected to the Mufti Court. And this is him in a regular suit. Brother G. Moss Bey was the first Grand Sheik of Temple number 11 in Philadelphia. And this is a brother, goes by the name of Wells Bey, Brother Wells Bey. And there was there's a story of a brother who actually did the same thing as Brother F. Nelson Bey did, and as Sister Basharis did, right? And his name is Brother T. Thompson Ill. I do not have a photograph of Brother Thompson Ill, but Brother Thompson Ill was dispatched, I believe, by the Prophet Noble Jew. It actually had to have been the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, because Temple number 11 is one of the temples that the Prophet established, right? And Brother T. Thompson Ill had to go down. He left one state. I believe he traveled from out of state and was sent into Philadelphia to help to establish Temple number 11 at that time. And this was a very tough Moor, because this was a difficult task. Actually, Philadelphia remains to be not an easy city until this very day. If you can imagine, Philadelphia is was served as the capital of the United States at one point. So it was not only strategic, it was also a feat. And then there's there's a story about, we talked about Newark, New Jersey. And I'm going to go to Brother Serrano Bey. I'm going to make sure Brother Serrano Bey, I don't know if you're familiar with Brother T. Thompson Ill's story, Brother Serrano Bey, but whether you are or not, you can mention something about that if you want. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the story of Newark and who was dispatched to Newark in order to reestablish, as we had discussed earlier, reestablish the Prophet's movement in the temple in Newark, New Jersey. There's a brother that's associated with that.
Oh, the Lord, baby.
Praise Allah.
Islam.
Islam, Brother Serrano Bey.
Islam, if I'm not mistaken, it was
We can't
Islam?
you, Brother Serrano Bey.
No, he just paused for a minute, I believe. Yeah, but
Islam, can you hear me now?
yes, we can hear you now.
Islam, if I'm not mistaken, it's Brother Ballard Bey.
Say that, but you said Bilal?
Ballard, B-O-L-L-U-R-D, Bey.
Yeah, my brother is sharp. It was Pollard, Brother Pollard. Yeah, Brother Pollard Bey. Was the Moor that the Prophet sent into, and I wouldn't call it wild Newark, New Jersey, but I would call it wild because it was they held the Prophet in contempt while he was there himself. But praise Allah, a couple years later, Prophet Noble Jew Ali declared Brother Pollard Bey. I'm not sure. I'm gonna go to Islam. I don't know if that's Sister Silzil, or Brother Ferguson Ill, or even if Brother Clendenin Bey came on the line and know exactly where Brother Pollard Bey was sent. If he came from Chicago or from another city. Islam, did I hear you?
Islam was, I just came on, Grand Sheik. I give praise to Allah and honor to the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. I didn't understand the question, sir.
Praise Allah. So Islam AGS. So we're talking about Brother F. Nelson Bey and the Moors striving, being dispatched from the different cities, from Chicago to Virginia, from Chicago to Kansas, Princess Basharis we just spoke about. Actually, I didn't get a chance to say that Brother Thompson Ill was originally sent to Milwaukee to establish Temple number 3, and then he was sent on a second mission to Philadelphia to establish Temple number 11. So we were talking about your temple number 10, the history of Temple number 10 and the Prophet and Sadi Majid, and how Brother Pollard Bey was dispatched to reestablish the Moorish Science Temple of America via Temple number 10 in Newark, New Jersey. And the question, Grand Sheik, was where did Brother Pollard Bey come from? I don't have that bit of information.
Islam, I don't know where he came from, Grand Sheik. He might have just been an original member of Temple 10. But
Islam.
realized after 1929, he started following the reincarnated prophet.
Islam. So I was explaining that Brother Pollard Bey was one of the first Grand Sheik, and he was dispatched there by the prophet.
I never heard that part of the story, brother.
Okay. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Islam. So that's what I wanted to share, Moors. I just wanted to go over that history. I don't know if anyone has any other comments or questions about that before we go into the Holy Quran. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Now I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, plug the computer back in. And we're going to go into chapter number 26. And I'm going to ask Sister Elberry Bey if you can start us off by reading the first 2 verses, which we started last week, and we'll kind of do a little summary and get into the, we'll get into that chapter. Get into any questions about that chapter. Islam.
The gift of the understandings are the treasures of Allah, and he appointed to everyone his portion, in what measure seemeth good unto himself. Hath he endowed thee with wisdom? Hath he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicated to the ignorant for their own instruction, communicated to the wise for thine own improvement.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. And we started this chapter a couple of weeks ago, but we were going over it last week. And I said, I pointed out the fact that this particular chapter is a very important chapter because it's the one that actually speaks to unity, entitled Holy Instructions of Unity. It's located in the center of the Quran, next to the other chapter that we feel speaks to unity as well, that being chapter 25. And it's interesting. We noted that it's interesting that it talks about communication, right? And we pointed out instruction number 10, which I think is one of the most important instructions in the Holy Quran, in my estimation, which reads, nevertheless, the attainment of virtue, he, speaking of the wise man, accounteth as the highest learning, right? The attainment of virtue, the application of the 5 divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is what that means. Those principles are called virtues. What are Sister Harmony, what is it? What are the principles of the lower self? Hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms, and other such principles. What are they called? If the high principles are called virtues, what are the low principles called? Or anyone? Sister Harmony.
That's a good question, Grand Sheik. Nothing is coming to me.
It also starts with a V. Both, virtue starts with a V, and the name of those low principles starts with a V as well. Anyone catch that thought? Brother, I'm gonna go to Brother Vocasio again, and then Brother Kidbay. What are the low virtues called? Starts with a V.
Islam. Currently, I've been thinking of the higher principles that I haven't placed too much thought on the lower virtues, but I know it's the opposite of, so if it's a virtue, it must be, I'm thinking of
Vice.
It doesn't come to my mind.
Vice.
Yes, correct.
Right. Remember the instruction, evil is not requisite to man, neither is it necessary for vice to be tolerated, right? Vice is to be tolerated. So you have the virtues and you have the vices. And this instruction 10 says that the attainment of virtues, the attainment of those high principles, the wise man accounteth as the highest learning. So let's take it from, thank you, Brother Canaanites Bay, thank you, Brother Vocasio. We read, Sister Barry Bay just read instruction number 1 and instruction number 2. Anyone have a thought? I'm gonna read them again one more time. The gifts of the understanding of the treasures of Allah, and he appointed to everyone his portion, in what meaning seemeth good unto himself, capital him. Islam, brother. In measure, Islam. The gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah, and he appointed to everyone his portion, in what measure seemeth good unto himself, capital H. Have he endowed thee with wisdom? Question mark. Hath he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Question. Communicate it to the ignorant. Communicate what you think you have, right? For their instruction. Communicate to the wise what you think you have for thine own improvement. Any thoughts on these first verses? And then we're going to continue on. Praise Allah. We went over those last week anyway. I'm going to ask Brother Ferguson if you can read instruction number 3.
Islam.
Islam.
First, I rise and give praise to Allah and the Prophet. Give on to everything pertaining to Islam. Give on to it. All is due. True wisdom is less presumed than folly. The wise man doubted often and changes it. The fool is obstinate and doubted not. He knows all things but his own ignorance. Peace.
Islam. Greg Gov, what does that line make you think of? Just to warm it up for the Moors. I'm gonna go to brother. Is Brother Kidbay? Yeah, Brother Kidbay next. True wisdom is less presuming than folly. The wise man doubteth often and changes his mind. A fool is obstinate and doubteth not. He knoweth all things but his own ignorance. What does that mean, Greg Gov?
Well, he's talking about the wisdom that we get. The wisdom is the consciousness that Allah man of one. It's less presuming than folly. The wise man doubted often. He may doubt, but he changes his mind.
Mm-hmm.
But the fool is obstinate. He's stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
He don't want to change. He just stuck.
Islam.
That's why it said communicate to the ignorant for their instruction. Communicate to the wise for their own improvement.
Islam.
True wisdom is less presuming than folly.
Islam.
Yeah. Praise Allah.
Praise Allah. Thank you, Grand Gov. Somewhere in this verse, in this chapter, it says that the clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly. So therefore, you have to be very careful in what you, the respect level that you place on the truth that you actually have, or the truth period, right? There's only one truth. And if you don't have the truth, you need to make sure that you switch to the truth if you have something else, right? And this is why the true wisdom is less presuming. To presume means that you're assuming, right? We know about assuming what it does to people. It makes you look funny, right? When you assume something, but then you realize that your assumptions were off because it seems like the truth. True wisdom is less presuming. It doesn't presume that it has the truth. It doesn't care about whether he thought he had the truth or not. He wants to make sure I actually have it in my hands, actually. The wise man, so therefore the wise man will doubt often, right? He'll doubt that if this is not the truth, then to lie, I'm afraid. I'm going to switch over to the truth. But that doesn't happen with the fool, right? It says, the wise man doubteth often and changes his mind, but the fool is obstinate. The obstinate, like Brother Ferguson, it'll mean stubborn, right? And he doubteth not. He probably doesn't even care about the truth or not. He's not seeking for the truth. He needs to make everybody think that he always has the truth. He knoweth all things. You know everything but your own ignorance. Anyone else have a thought about this particular verse, Brother Kidbay? I'm gonna go to you. Islam.
I'm kind of multitasking a little bit, brother. I'm kind of.
No worries. All is well. I understand. Let's see some of the other faces I see on here. I can see little pictures. Brother Sadiq. Islam, I'm gonna go to you, Brother Sadiq. Islam, we just read instruction number 3 from chapter 26. It says, true wisdom is less presuming than folly. And we're discussing the meaning. What are your thoughts on the meaning of this particular verse?
Islam, Grand Sheikh, I think this verse is saying that a wise man is not taking all things for granted, that he's willing to investigate he's willing to investigate whether it's true or not, and rather than having a fixed idea, saying as the obstinate person, which is like, it's going to take anything on face value without investigation. And as you said, that person probably don't care. They're just going to roll with the flow. It's kind of just going out and pulling the lever at the polls and without really understanding what your candidates stand for. So a man that's wise is going to look and listen to all points from each candidate, then make his decision on whether or not how to vote for that particular person. I hope my my metaphor made sense. And with that, I'll say peace.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. That made a ton of sense. That was actually a great example. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Thank you, Brother Sadiq. That actually helps round out the thought for this particular verse. I'm going to go to instruction number 4. I'll read it, and then I'm going to go to Sister Harmony. And Sister Harmony, you can actually comment on the last verse as well, or if you want to go into the connection into this next verse, instruction number 4, which reads, "The pride of emptiness is an abomination, and to talk much is the foolishness of folly. Nevertheless, it is the part of wisdom to hear with patience their impertinence and to pity their absurdity." What does that mean? What does that line mean? And can you connect it to the in any way to the earlier verses or the previous verse, Sister Harmony?
Islam, first I rise and give praise to Allah, high honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and everything that pertains to Islam. So the two things that stood out to me most in instruction 3, it starts off by saying true wisdom. And just to camel back off of what Brother Sadiq was saying, for a wise person, they are going to want to investigate, to hear, to listen, to understand when they are being presented with true wisdom, but they also have the ability to discern. Whereas a fool may not want to hear it no matter what, whether it's truth or not. And then as it ties into instruction 4, it starts with the pride. So also just tapping into some of our humanistic, I guess, the humanistic part of our understanding. When we're thinking of things from a base level, we have to decide sometimes whether or not our pride is getting in the way of information being presented to us. So the pride of emptiness, I think, speaks to just having a certain attitude about information being relayed to you. And that attitude oftentimes is shown through in communication. You can tell right away whether somebody is receiving what you have to say or not. And when someone is sharing information with you, because instruction 4 goes on to speak about having patience, being able to accept people where they are with the level of information that they have. If they're not willing to hear you out and to hear you try and compassionately help them, come to the conclusions about something they may have been misinformed about, or sharing new information, and you see that that person is really, stubborn and, not willing to accept any new information, to just be patient, because the reality is truth will speak for itself. And when that person does come into that truth, the last thing that we want them to do is run from us, right? We want them to be able to say, thank you for sharing that with me, and not being angry when I couldn't see it, when I didn't understand it. And with that, I say peace.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. You triggered a couple of different thoughts. And the first one, I'm going to start in reverse. One of the things, the quality that the Quran, this verse is definitely telling us, is that we need to have patience when communicating with someone that you feel like they haven't reached the level of understanding that you're at, is probably a fair way to put it. You want to have patience. What you don't want to do is find yourself getting, I've been there, I'm sure the Moors can imagine instances where you're trying to explain a certain truth, whether it be what the prophet actually says, and the prophet's truths of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish National Movement. And then someone doesn't understand it, but they're coming from a position of ignorance, and then you find yourself almost getting aggravated. But this right here says, if you're in true form, you want to have more patience, right? And actually, it talks about later on disengaging if it gets so frustrating that the person doesn't want to hear. You just got to disengage your emotions and just be cool, because getting upset definitely is the wrong way to go. I wanted to bring up a more specific point, and I'm gonna go to Sister Berry Bay. And this takes me to the thought of me I always tell the Moors, one of the things that I am as a Moorish American is a businessman. I bring, business to the table in terms of entrepreneurship on the levels that I'm in. I'm actually in the business. I've developed a business. In developing a business plan, there's a thing called due diligence. You got to do your due diligence in order to make a business plan actually is all about due diligence. Basically, you have to go through a process of gathering information, making sure you have all of your things lined up in a row and you have your math correct, your plan correct. You do it in due diligence. But the thought that due diligence makes me come to, and this particular verse is speaking directly to, is a concept called vetting. Anyone familiar with the concept of vetting? I'm going to go to Sister Barry Bay, and I'm going to come back to that statement. And I'm going to make sure the Moors know what is vetting. When you are learning information, we're learning about the Moors, being a Moorish American nationality, the history of the Moors, and we have all this information at our ready. You have the internet, you have authors that are writing all different types of books, but you have to be able to discern the information that you are taking on. And in order to discern information that you're taking on, there's a process that's called vetting that you better be aware of and learn to be good at. And that's what I believe is spoken in this particular verse. And I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to ask the most, but I'm going to go to Sister Barry Bay first real quick, and then we're going to close out. Sister Barry Bay?
Islam. I had a thought, kind of walking with the Moors. In instruction 26, my husband always expound with me and the family how consider that the holy instructions of unity is speaking to you, the wise and the ignorant. You are the wise and ignorant, because ignorant only means to not know.
Mm-hmm.
So some experiences that we have, we don't always know how to handle those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It may be new to you. So
Mm-hmm.
you're ignorant to it.
Islam.
And you're going to be stubborn about it. So the prophet, Allah has given us the prophet to show us, and with these divine instructions, that we are infinite and finite. We are truth and falsehood strangely mixed. And that's why he appoints his portion.
Mm-hmm.
And if we understand this, speaking to ourselves, not no one else.
Mm-hmm.
This is you, chapter 26, the wise and the ignorant. And when you can discern those things with yourself, it's easier to discern with others. You can help them by what you have done for yourself, considering and reflecting on your own imperfections.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. That's a very good point. One of the things that I would consider with that thought is that, remember, the chapter talks about the ignorant. When it mentions the ignorant, the opposite of ignorance is knowledge, really. You got knowledge, you got ignorance, but it also talks about the wise. The opposite of the wise is the fool. We want to be wary of sometimes I guess you can easily fall into the role of a fool, but we want to avoid being a fool if we can. We're going to be ignorant, and no one knows everything. There's certain things, like if you may be expert in some things and then find out that you're terrible in others. No one knows all things, right? So ignorant, yes, we'll be, but we never want to be the fool. Also, and then really briefly, I will point out that this chapter, again, I want to remind that it's nestled between 20 and 30. Mm-hmm. 20 and 30, I always call it like the building blocks of the nation, the building blocks of a community. It starts with yourself and your partner. Pairing with a partner at the beginning, that's 20, 21, and 22. And then 24, you start to have a family, your household. Once you get to chapter 25, it starts to talk about the community. It talks about all of us together. And 26 is in that context. And then after 26, it's talking about whole communities, master and servant in society, magistrate and subject, society, social duties, chapter 30. 26, I believe it speaks to yourself the same way chapter 3 does, the holy unity of the unity of Allah and man, I believe it is, chapter 3, which is the lower self, and which is Life's lessons, the unity of life. The beginning of chapter 3, these are your individual higher self and lower self. The middle to the end, it starts talking about the community, the world, and it starts using words like men in plural. So 26, I think it can be taken both ways. You can know that you're going to be ignorant of certain things, but I think we want to avoid being a fool. So in that way, I think it speaks largely to when you're communicating to the nation, and you're going to run into people that are difficult to communicate to. And this is explaining to you, how do you communicate with them? I want to go back to this thought about vetting. Who has heard, is familiar with the concept of vetting? Sister Barry, is this?
Islam?
Wisely. So
Yes.
it's saying somebody who's being unwise. So, you know, we don't want to get scared of the word fool, proper use it. Just as fools is unwise, it means a person who acts unwisely. So sometimes we may do unwisely things, not really understanding that it's unwisely. So I'm not saying you're a fool, but this is what the instruction shows us. So that's why I'm just, my understanding is that you should always try to consider these instructions as yourself, can use them on yourself, and then you can help others. You can administer. So that, you know, I want to clear that up.
There's one of the verses, and I'm gonna come. Is that Sister Sealsville?
Just letting you know, I'm waiting. No worries, man. She continue your thought.
I'm coming right to you, and I want to get to the thought of vetting. There's a part, and I believe it's in the Holy Instructions on Truth, where it talks about playing a fool by halves. You know, it says that you don't want to say, you know, I don't want to correct the truth because then I'm gonna be a full-blown fool. It's just like once you realize you're wrong, we want to. That what I get from the verse, and I'm trying to remember where that verse is at. I'll look it up. Not playing a fool by halves. But anyway, what I'll do, I'm gonna leave that thought there. We'll think about it. We'll come back to that. You know, I receive what Sister Barber is saying. I want to go to Sister Sealsville, and then I want to close with this thought about vetting to make sure the Moors understand the process of vetting something and what is vetting, how do you vet, and what is the proper use of vetting and when. But first, I want to go to Sister C. Sealsville, Sister Sheikahs.
That's Grand Sheik. I was gonna reply to vetting. Vetting was pretty much cross-check. For those who don't like the word of cross or cross-check, it's just more of a verifying to make sure it's authentic and that it's just factual, authentic. Clarify. It's a manner of just checking. But could I just reply with what Sister Barber, our dear sister, just expressed? I definitely understand the thought behind it. Now, by definition, fool is a person who lacks judgment or sense, right? And so it's a special place in a sense of where to be, because we may not be all knowing, but we do have discernment and judgment. And so like we may not know what it is to cross the street ever in our lives, right? But there are some children that are just going to dart across the street anyway, but there's some that's going to look like, wow, that's moving really fast, I'm going to take my time. So it's more of a way of understanding it and how you approach a scenario or a situation, like not joking or playing about it. It's more of a seriousness that comes with it. And wisdom doesn't necessarily mean all knowing either. It's just the way that you approach it. It's taking your time. You know, if you want to, approach something, you must first observe and understand. And so that's kind of was the understanding based on definition. I remember from Sister Rashida Ill, who wrote Sister Rashida Ill wrote a dictionary, like wrote a little book. Great, you know what I'm talking about. It was like a study guide or something like that. That's what I was speaking to. She had put definitions in there for this in particular, and it kind of helped me to get a certain understanding based on the prophet's time in which he utilized these words. Thank you for calling on me, and with that, I say peace. It's great hearing the more.
Praise Allah. Thank you for that, Sister Sealsville. Do you know the book that Sister Rashida Ill, former Grand Sheik of 77, actually, the Sister Sealsville was referring? Brother Ferguson? It was a study dictionary. Wow, I didn't even, Sister Sealsville, I wasn't even aware of that. You just taught me something new.
Yeah.
And Sister Rashida Ill is one of our researchers. She's got a lot of information. So you just put me on a mission to see if I can get a copy of one of those. Praise Allah. With that, I wanted to go, that verse comes from the chapter Insufficiency of Knowledge. It's actually instruction number 24. But for sake of time, I want to come back to that. That verse is the shorter the follies are, the better. Say not, therefore, I will not play the fool by halves. But I want to try to stay on topic, and then we'll come back to that because we're over time now. Maybe we can pick it up during secretary time. Maybe we'll do that for a few minutes in secretary time. Sister Sealsville just explained vetting. Vetting means to study something before you just swallow it hook, line, and sinker. So if I'm vetting, for example, like a book, somebody provides a book, I need to know about the author. Who's the author? What is the author's background? What is his stance? What is his association to the information that he's providing? And so therefore, once I know about the author and what are his or her qualifications to author a book, and then once I have that understanding, then I'll read the book, if someone gives me information, a Moorish American says such and such is the truth, a bit of information I want to tell you about the flags or about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. You need to, man knows not by being told. So you want to go and you want to vet the person. Are you this person a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America? How so? You know, what is their connection? Okay, fine, they are, but they're not really, or they're not at all. Okay, what did they say? And where can I verify that information at? You want to verify. Somebody says there was a document floating around a couple of years ago. It came out of the Dred Scott decision, Judge Taney's opinion. And Judge Taney's opinion, he mentions a statement made by Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln supposedly said, used the word Moorish Americans to describe. The Moorish Americans were actually a part of the founding of this country. The Moorish Americans actually voted, and the Moorish Americans are a part of the country. And I was like, wow, that's deep. It says Moorish Americans. Abraham Lincoln uses the word Moorish American. But when you look up the actual speech, you got to find a speech he made in Illinois. You look at the versions of the speech, and he doesn't say Moorish Americans. Somebody doctored the document so that it says Moorish Americans. So do I want to be repeating something that I vetted it? It took me a whole day. That particular document, I'm like, because it was a vintage, everything looked official. It was an old looking piece of pamphlet. And took me a day to vet it, but now I know the truth. That I don't want to be repeating that because that actually is not accurate information. In order to be a trustworthy source, you want to learn how to vet what you are pushing as the truth. And that's a process in itself that is very useful in life in general. With that, Moors, I'd like to thank everyone for your attendance in the Sunday school meeting. We actually went over time a little bit, and so at this point, I'm going to call on our chairman of Temple number 34, Brother C. Ferguson Ill, so he can close us out of the meeting. Peace.
Islam.
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 I'd like to thank the Grand Sheik and also for the members for their participation in the Sunday school class. You know, it's a blessing, just to be able to go through the class because we learn something from each other. Especially in that chapter, communicate to the ignorant for the instructions, communicate to the wise for their own improvement. So hopefully we can improve ourselves and search for ourselves and look for ourselves. Let me read the warning. Divine warning by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Prophet wants our Muslims, governors, order the reproclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans that cause confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Fail to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, true peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their cards and button, cease wearing their turbans and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. It's an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways by order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Peace.
Peace.
At this time, we'll ask anyone who want to make pay their dues or want to a collection. If anybody want to contribute to the different collection that we have the building fund, we got the traveling fund, public collection. Anybody want to? You can go to our Cash App. 34. MS 34.
Want to put the $sign in, Morris. $NSTA34.
All right. Islam, Sister Berry.
I actually have the book from Rashida. I have that.
Yeah.
I just received that book. Praise a lot, so I'll definitely share. You know, I didn't get to.
I got it somewhere.
So I do have a copy.
Praise Allah.
834. Also, if anybody wants to put in an application for membership, they can go to the Moorish Science Temple number NO.34 @gmail.com and send your information into the temple number 34 to the Grand Sheik, and we'll make sure you get an application to become a member of the Moorish Science of America.
Islam, I just wanted to ask if you could just briefly share for the Moors, especially those who are going to watch this as a recording, what exactly does membership entail?
Islam.
Islam, Great Sheik.
Islam. When you become a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, there are, I would describe things that speak to the letter of the law would be that you take out a nationality card. You have to pay your dues on a monthly basis, and the dues are $9 in total, which include 50 cents for your dues. You have emergency fund, which is $1.50. Per capita tax is $3, and there's a national building fund $4, and it totals out at $9. And there's some, if you're not working or you have financial trouble, you can write a letter and we can reduce that down closer to the 50 cents. So you want to pay your dues. You also want to attend your meetings. Your attendance is very important. Attendance of meetings in terms of maintaining a good membership, and then of course, you want to make sure that you are within the laws of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which is laws and regulations, including things like common sense stuff like you don't want to make trouble, create disturbances in the temple or outside of the temple, and you know, you want to represent the temple in a respectful way. You know, so those are the things that I would say are required of membership. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was quoted as saying, "Don't burden the Moors." So if you're able to strive and do more, serve a position, serve as a sheik, donate additional, do additional works, that's beautiful. But if you can't, you know, membership is just simply to pay your dues and to stay within the laws and to make your meetings. Peace.
Peace.
I just have one more portion to add to that question, and this is for some folks who have been asking for something on the website, or if there was something they could view online, that they were not able to find a list of qualifications for those who are seeking membership. Do they need to qualify by any way? And one person in particular was curious as to if anybody can join the Moorish Science Temple, and if not, then how do you know whether or not you qualify, and what do those qualifying factors include?
Islam. Again, that's a great question. The first part, I would say that on a basic level, mundane level, when you join and you become a member and you get a nationality card, you need to be prepared to provide identification, because you actually end up on our records, permanent records, and it needs to tie back to an actual citizen. You know, we need to know, you know, if there's a person behind this. And, you know, there's just the basic qualifications. You have to be an American citizen. We've had cases where members come to the Moorish Science Temple of America and they think that by getting a nationality card, it can somehow provide them proof of citizenship. And that is not the case at this particular time. Again, in short, you would need to be able to provide legal identification so that we know that what your name is on a record is the name that's on the official record. And then also, Prophet Noble Drew Ali came to the Asiatics of America who had their nationality stripped. So that includes a very specific group of people. I would say included in that, there are some that actually have a form of a nationality, although it's not superior to, I would say, you know, Moorish American is using the description of the Grand Sheik of Temple number 54 in the Bronx. He says that being a Moorish American is dominant nationality and gives you dominant nationality and superior citizenship, right? And those other nationalities would include the Virgin Islands, Jamaican American, Haitian American, Trinidadian American, Puerto Rican American. They have a flag, and there is a type of a nationality that's provided with them. So they will be included in people that had their nationality stripped, although they technically have a nationality now. And I would say that foreign people that are foreign to that from other countries, Indian Americans, for example, the Prophet talks about foreign Muslims in the oral statements. Arabian Americans, they're not in need of the nationality like the Asiatics of America are. So they have a different type of a status. They can be members, but they are, limited in the scope of how they can serve in the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'll just say that. You can go into the oral statements and see what the Prophet says specifically. And then I would say European Americans are in that same category, where it becomes kind of a little bit controversial if a European American joins the Moorish Science Temple of America. The capacity that they can serve is a kind of an open discussion, and a kind of it's an open debate about the proper way that they can seek for membership. So I would say, to wrap that all up, I would say Asiatic Americans are those that are targeted for membership to the Moorish Science Temple of America. Peace.
Peace.
Sorry, one more question. These are coming off of my Facebook for those who are asking questions. I told them that they could send them my way. So one last question was, is there steps that you need to take before you are granted your nationality card? Meaning, can you just walk in off the street and say, I want to be a member of this temple, although we've never seen you before? Or is there steps that Temple 34 or even just the Moorish Science Temple in general requires before someone can go through the process of becoming a member of a specific temple?
Good question. Could be a long answer. I'm gonna try to make it simple. Historically, the Prophet was giving out cards on the street, to those that he was targeting, like I said, Asiatics. Today, the Moors have learned to be very, because it's different today than in the Prophet's time. We are as cautious. We try to be as cautious as possible about gaining new members. So usually we say that you need to make 10 meetings. Islam usually say that you have to make 10 meetings before you can become a member, because we had a lot of people that would come in, take a card, and then never return. When we fully expect that if you become a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, you stay and maintain your membership per what I said a minute ago. We although you can come in, and if we feel like your spirit is accurate, that you're excited about the movement and that you'll be here, we could give a card the same day. Usually we wait a few meetings, upwards of 10 meetings. Temple 34 actually at this point has held a tradition, because there are many who've come in taking cards and just disappeared. I would say kind of somewhat shamelessly, or maybe in their confusion. So we like to wait even 6 months. The last few members that have received their cards have waited upwards of 6 months to receive your card, because if you're really truly seeking membership to the Moorish Science Temple of America, is really no time set. You come in and you realize this is where you need to be, and you get caught up in the process of learning, and then the time elapses pretty quickly. But the technical rule for most temples is 10 meetings. Peace.
Peace. Thank you, Grand Sheikh.
Islam. Also, I wanted to say that, Moors, if you would like to get membership, I think that's what Brother Ferguson was going to say. You can go to you can email us at Moorish Science Temple number 34@gmail.com. That's Moorish Science Temple NO period 34 gmail.com. If you would like to gather more information about the Moors, or if you use Facebook, and you can find us on our Facebook page that has a lot of other information. You can look at some of the history, events of Temple number 34. There's videos on there. That is Moorish Science Temple number 34 on Facebook. Again, Moorish Science Temple NO period 34. Praise Allah. And then I'm gonna check in a few minutes to see if the secretary, Sister Barry, I didn't even read your reply to that text. Did you want to go do a report?
No, not today. We'll start next week.
Okay, praise Allah. Praise Allah.
We have to get something. Thank you.
Islam.
We have another question, Grand Sheik. Brother Sadiq Bey.
Islam, Brother Sadiq Bey.
Islam Grand Sheik. I have a question about obtaining literature. I know you're probably on your way to it, but I just wanted to put that out there just to discuss about obtaining literature.
Islam, yes. If you send finance to the Brother Sadiq, have you joined any one of the temples yet at this point?
No, I'm waiting for y'all.
Okay, praise Allah. Do you were you able to get your application in? I want to make sure we have it.
I sent a couple of emails, but I haven't gotten a response back. So I'm just waiting for that. I know y'all are busy and I'm patient.
That's my apology for that. And I will look for it. And what did you send that in the last few days, last few weeks? So I know how far to look.
I sent one this morning and early last week.
Praise Allah, praise Allah. So yeah, we actually have literature here at 34. The reason why I asked the question is before you become a member, you can purchase a Quran, I believe, I want to say a questionary, and then once you become a member, you can get the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, the Moorish literature, and all of the other humanity pamphlet, oral statements, and all of the other literature. But you can purchase by sending to the Cash App. That's $MSTA34.
Okay.
Just put a note on there that what you want to purchase. So this is for the Quran and the questionary. The Quran is $7. I know the Quran price moved up. I'm trying to remember what the price was for the Quran. Currently, we're still selling them for $7, although I think the price might have moved to $10.
Okay. Whatever.
Questionary is $250, and that price changed as well. It was increased a little bit, and I have to figure out what the new number is. But so if you send for those two, $950 will get you a copy of the Quran and a questionary.
Okay.
Actually, questionary is $1.50 or it might be $1.50. The questionary is actually $1.50, so $8.50 will get you both, and then we'll add on the shipping. If you do regular mail, that probably be maybe if you add another $3, or if you wanted it overnight, it maybe 2-day mail might be $10.
Okay. Peace. Islam.
Barry, you have something to say? All right. Praise Allah, Moors. Any other questions? Any other questions concerning the lesson that the Grand Sheik had today? While doing the secretary time?
Islam, I have a question. First I want to thank my Grand Sheik, Brother Y. Cyrus Hill, head of the temple number 34, for giving me the opportunity last week to rehear the thoughts, words, and deeds by communication of Brother P. Chase Hill. It was jewels. Jewels is the word that came to heart and mind, and I was joyous to sit down and continue to shine them in discretion. My question in regards to today's lesson, right? I had written down this question last week, but it makes sense today as well. Being myself, a lot of times, or many of the times, interacting in the public is met with resistance, microaggressions, and ignorance due to the fact that the population as a whole has been conditioned not to critically think about anything. They're just fed what they want you to know and not what you need to know. My question is how does one navigate that? Peace.
Islam. And I missed just a little piece of the question just now. Sister Barber, I missed it. You can go back a little bit. You said when you go out in the public, you said microaggressions, and then I lost it from there. I missed you from there. I want to make sure I answer this.
Roger that. Yeah, when I'm in the public, right? Let's say with a pale-skinned European, interacting with a pale-skinned European who may know or not know, ignorant or silently knowledgeable of who I am. So my question is, being myself, at times I'm met with resistance, microaggressions, and ignorance. What is the best way to go about handling that?
Can you describe, because again, we've all, as we travel in the public, we get various different feedback, right? Whether it's from Asiatics, mostly positive. Most of the time you see positive, people will approach you, they look up to us secretly, or you know, they come up and they give a lot of respect. And then foreigners usually will come with questions and they're curious, and if you can answer them properly, then they also show a lot of respect. But if they feel like you don't, when I remember at the beginning of my journey, and I didn't quite know how to defend, or I was saying things like, this is Morocco and blah, 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 like not using what the prophet actually said, they would come off in contempt. And the European, I've gotten, which is probably the most extreme case, I've gotten everything, usually they are a little bit more challenging, and it can be combative. And a lot of times you have to really know what you're talking about, and then you can bottle that energy up. And then, but not always. Sometimes they are also politely respectful. You know, sometimes they're genuinely curious and out of respect. So if you can give me an example, I will be able to speak to that a little bit better.
An example being, let's say, dealing with a administrative tribunal magistrate, a attorney hearing officer, or for my personal situation is dealing with these people in the court system, or the so-called court system.
What I would say to that, and thank you for clarifying, is that I will remind the Moors what I was told by Moorish Americans, elders, right, of different walks, types: stay out of the courts. If you can avoid it, stay out of the courts. Right now, the Moorish Americans, we are trying to come into our power. Our power will come on when we're unified. We're still trying to unify. You know, we haven't presently unified. So our power is not on to the degree that we can enforce anything on end, right? So you have legislation that's written, and then it is written into law, right? And then it's enforced in the courts. Then you get on that's like the tail end of the gun. You get in front of that gun where it's coming out, and they already decided it, they signed it in the law, and then now you're outside of the law, and the judge is trying to see whether you're in or out of the laws that are written, good, bad, or otherwise. It was voted on, you know? You can find yourself in a bad spot. I've received calls from, in brief, people that have gone into the court. I think I said this to you before, brother. We've had this conversation, Brother Volkaz. I get Mayday calls, SOS calls from the court saying my son is in the hospital, and they're in a mental ward of the hospital, and they're trying to force feed them drugs, because I found out ultimately, and they're too intelligent. They went into the court and they jammed something into the gears of the court. You know, where the court, usually a lot of times you go into the court, you don't know what you're doing. The court will spit you out, it'll push you to the side, it'll smack you across the face and and put you out. If you're very smart, you go in there and you jam something into the gears real good. They have nothing else that they can do. I've seen Moorish Americans get taken and put into the hospital, psych ward, because they're just like, this person is deemed not mentally sound. And then they're calling from there and they're trying to figure out what happened. So I would suggest that, when you go into the courts and you're talking about Europeans and the court administrators, it's warfare. The court is a type of warfare. It's like slow motion war. I wouldn't put myself into that position unless I had no other choice. Being a Moorish American is really only has a limited amount of, we just watched the president override the Senate of the United States of America and said, I'm not coming to your subpoena. Make me come and testify. And then the law says he has to, but he violated the law. You know, these are trying times. These are extreme times. These are the last days. And you don't want to try to use the Moorish Science Temple of America to defend yourself in the court at this particular time. That's my personal opinion. Brother Vocazil, peace and love. Peace.
Peace, peace.
Thank you so much. Assistant Grand Sheik, Brother Conjunct Bey has his hand up.
Islam, brother AGS.
Islam, Grand Governor Connecticut, how you doing, Mo?
I'm doing great, praise Allah. Allah do the praise more.
Yeah, on the question the Grand Sheik was just talking about, just made me think about when the prophet says, go to those that know law and in your city hall in an intelligent tone. A lot of times I see them brothers talking, they're not using an intelligent tone. That just doesn't mean you're throwing out a bunch of facts. It's how you talk to a person, you know, also how you dress, how you carry yourself. I've been in courts many times with many Moorish Americans, Brother Loville, myself, other Moors, way we dress, the way we carried ourselves, I don't understand. We never had no problems. So that's the key. And if, for whatever reasons, the people that you're talking to do not know what you're talking to, just kindly ask for a supervisor, a manager, someone else in charge. Nicely asked. You know, you go and people, I see Moore's going there, oh, you got to do this, and I'm going to tell you what you got to do. And the guy standing there, he's a sheriff, he got a gun and whatever. He's like, you know what? We're going to show you. And here come the ambulance, and there you go away. You know what I'm saying? Or you're handcuffed, you're laying on the floor, you know, YouTube's on you, your fez is knocked down and everything. And then you get out and talk about you were right. You know, so let's just think intelligently. Go to those that know law. Go further down the line of as far as who's in charge. And even at the end of the day, if you didn't get a positive to your answer, go home, regroup, and follow it another way. Don't get so upset that people don't listen to you that you get low. Then once you go into your lower self, then they're going to act a certain way. So intelligent tone, carry yourself a certain way, and you can always come back and go through another process with someone else. Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Peace.
Islam,
Becky.
Just to cap this off very quickly, you know, you want to be careful in terms of what you're going into court for. When I say the writing of laws and fighting of laws that are written, you know, you want to make sure that you're within the law. We were talking a couple of weeks ago about what is law, and one of the things was that it is where truth reigns. So you want to measure and say, okay, am I going in to represent truth? Am I going in on the side of the laws that are established, or am I going in on a theory that I can skirt something, avoid something based on a theory that comes from Moorish Americans that might not be members of the temple? Or if they're in the temple, even if they're in the temple, that doesn't really, I don't see where the Prophet Noble Ali said that I can do this particular thing. So those are the things that you want to measure out. If you're going in and it's something that's, you know, you got this is a normal court case and you feel like you're right, you can win the case and you get an attorney or whatever you can afford to do, you know, you go in and represent yourself. You know, you definitely want to represent it as a Moorish American, but just be wary of trying to fight laws that are established based on theories. Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Islam.
No.
I just want to add a little piece to that as well. I currently have clients who are going through some legal challenges, and I was able to sit in with them and their counsel. And something that I thought was really important, especially for the Moors to know, these are Moors in California, so it was a Zoom call. But one thing that was brought to our attention as we all sat deciding what direction to go in was, and I've already heard this a little bit with, in terms of what has been said, but also considering not only what are you going in there for, but are there other cases that are similar to yours that have already been won? And typically that's a good way to measure whether or not you're going to be able to self-represent, especially, and just walk in there smooth sailing and have any judge take any side with you or to assist you. But if there is not currently, especially for Moorish Americans, if there is not anything already that you can use as an example of a case that was won in your state, and where the fight was simple, again, without counsel is the most difficult way to go about it. But even with counsel, if it was a simple case and it was able to be won, then you're in a pretty good position. But there is something also to be noted. If you can look up cases similar to yours that were lost and to see what mistakes were made, to see what notes you can find about those cases, because sometimes it's as easy as doing a YouTube search. I've done that several times just to YouTube situations that different Moors have come to me with and about. And as Grand Sheik said, if you're going in trying to figure out how to finagle or get out of something, more than likely you're not going to win. But you can also likely find a video on YouTube or somewhere on the internet of someone else who tried to do the same thing you did unsuccessfully. And sometimes we can take that from others, their losses, their failures, and learn from them without us having to actually go through it ourselves. Similar to the metaphor of like watching somebody else touch fire and get burned. We don't need to get in line behind them and touch that fire to know that's what happened to them. So just wanting to also reference that if you can't find something that has already been, in support of another case where they won in your state, then it's likely that you do need to go and regroup, like the Assistant Grand Sheik said, and just kind of decide again, pray and ask Allah, is this really where your fight and focus should be? Because sometimes we get so caught into it, we feel like we can't go back, but you can always stop and say, you know what, I've had some time to think about this, and I've decided that this is what I'm really gonna do. Just transition your energy into resolving the issue as opposed to fighting it and being on the defense. What needs to be done to resolve it so that in the eyes of the law, you're not a criminal, you're not somebody that's avoiding things. And then just take that lesson and try and share that with those around you so that our community doesn't continue to individually experience the same failures over and over again. Different people we're talking to all experiencing these same failures in the court. Like Grand Sheik said, I'll just end my comment with saying, if you can avoid being in the court, that's your best call of action. And with that, I say peace.
Peace. Islam. I'm going to say this in closing, because one of the things we want to watch, these type of conversations too, these are good for maybe after the meeting convos, or even like a workshop. If we do a workshop on civics or something like that. But one of the things I will say, and I want to thank everyone for their comments, were very accurate, in closing, is that what you want to avoid, there's certain classic things that the Moors have been going in court and building up the reputation for the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Divine National Movement. That's not fair. By arguing and challenging saying that they're not citizens, and that's incorrect. Saying that because they're not citizens, they are not under the jurisdiction of the United States of America to be judged, which is not correct. They also are challenging the motor vehicle court and having a license and not having a license, which is not accurate. If you're in a state and you don't have a driver's license, the state has a right to basically hold you to the laws of not having a license. And then one of the last was taxation. A lot of the Moors go in court and they say that they argue that they can't be taxed. These particular, I think there's 4 arguments are across a swath of cases that Moorish Americans bring. And I just would warn the Moors and say that this is not what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali wanted us to be in court battling over. And then finally, what Sister Harmony just mentioned is case law and shepherdizing.
That's what it is. Shepherdizing.
Yeah, you want to study the case laws on a particular thing that if you're arguing for the truth and your rights, you want to go and study the case law, and you do that's called shepherdizing, to see what has already been established as a precedent on those types of arguments. Peace.
Peace. Praise Allah.
Islam.
Praise Allah. Islam?
Islam. Sister Steele's here.
Islam, praise and honor is already given. Honors to all the Moors once again for all your thoughts and your questions and assistance. I was also thinking, we also have to remember that it also goes, we honor all of the divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. So there are certain things that aren't going to go a certain way, considering the things that we have affected already in life. So some of it has nothing to do with necessarily, let's just say, the law of the land, but this is earthly and divine salvation. So we have to understand that some things have to also do with divine intervention, if you will. And so similarly to what all the more said, don't be discouraged, continue to study, but also study yourself in the midst of it and understand what role you may have played. Because some things we might be trying to win over, and we might actually be guilty of certain actions or certain activity or certain things. And so we're trying to necessarily evade it, but we are to obey the laws of the government. And so at the same time, I just want to make sure that, you know, we don't jam ourselves up trying to get around it. Because even though you might bypass the law in one way, if it's due to you, Allah has a way. So suppose that you cannot hide yourself from the things that you've done from Allah. And I'm not saying anyone's guilty, but I'm just also speaking to both sides. So just be aware, even when you're assisting those that may be in need. And with that, I say peace.
Peace. Praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
Islam.
Islam.
I'd like to thank everyone for their participation in the Sunday school. I'd like to thank everyone for their contributions, physically, spiritually, and financially. I pray Allah continue to guide us. I pray Allah continue to shield us against all negative forces seen and unseen, and keep reminding the Moors, don't forget your Ali prayer. And if you remember the instruction of the Assistant Grand Sheikh, Brother Walter W. Condemning Bey, when he read that part of the Elohim, you know, praise Allah.
Thoughts of angel, man,
Angel, and I don't think it's being directed force. So don't limit yourself. You got that within yourself. But sometimes we have to harness that energy within ourselves and move according to that energy. All right. Is there anything else, Kashi?
That's it. Thank you, Morris.
Thank you, Morris. Thank you, Morris, for participating in the class. And we have a Quran class tonight on with Brother W. Condemning Bay from 3 to 9. So if you can get on that, I think that's very important. And also on Thursday also. Thursday from 7:30 to 8:30.
7:30 to 8:30 on Thursdays. Tonight, 7:30 to 9. Phone number is area code 712-432-3447.
Islam.
69913 #.
Islam, AGS.
Islam was, yeah, Grand Sheik, we had a problem with the conference call number, and I got an email from them that they had to redo their system or something happened with their system. So we won't be able, I have to get a new phone number and everything. So we won't have it happen tonight, but I'll try to get a new number out beginning of this week, and we'll get the number out for Thursday.
All right, Mo. Thank you very much, Mo.
All right. Peace and love.
Peace and love. All rise, face the east. Repeat the Moorish American prayer after our Grand Sheik.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah,
the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
The Father
of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom. And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is
my protector.
My guide.
My God.
And my salvation.
In my
salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
And by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy
prophet.
To
Ali.
Amen.
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 Praise Allah, Moors. Thank you, Moors.
Praise Allah.
Peace and love, Moors.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Peace and love.
And love.